All right, back on Rebel headquarters. Let's get right to it. Joining me now is David Dole. He's the creator and host of The Rational National. That's Rational National, therationalnational.com, youtube.com/The Rational National. David, welcome to the program. How you doing, brother?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm rock and roll. So you're from Canada.
Yes,
I am. So I want to talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
So I did not know this about you. You ran as a Green Party candidate back in 2015?
Yeah, so in 2015, I was inspired by our Green Party leader, Elizabeth May, and I needed an outlet to talk about these progressive issues, and there was actually a spot in my riding to run as a Green Party candidate, so I put my name in. I got a call about a week later, there was nobody else, so I became the candidate for the riding, and then for the next few months, I was in debates, I was a Green Party candidate. I ultimately lost, obviously, but then a few months later, I started the Rational National as a way to continue talking about these progressive issues. So that's how this whole started.
So when you say the Rational National, does that mean you're a nationalist?
No. So actually, so when I started the channel, I knew there would be some confusion about that, and I actually embraced it. I like the idea of conservatives kind of coming upon my channel accidentally and maybe learning a few things. So but the name actually derives from, we have a show here, a new show called The National. So I kind of, using that idea, I call myself the Rational National. And also national just means like citizen. So it's, no, I'm not a nationalist.
Okay, yeah. Believe me, we get confusion about our name as well.
Oh yeah, I know you do.
Right. And I also like Turks accidentally stumbling upon the show going, why they are not talking about Turkish news? Okay.
Exactly.
Anyways, so I want to ask about Canada. First of all, Trudeau, good or bad? Go.
Yeah, mostly bad. So we have this issue in Canada where we have multiple parties, but even though we have multiple parties, oftentimes we treat our system like it's a two-party system because we've only really ever had two main parties represent us. So the Conservatives, Stephen Harper was a prime minister for about 10 years. And then Justin Trudeau won a majority government in 2015, the same year that I ran. He since then, so the way Trudeau was able to win is he took a lot of the progressive message that the NDP originally would be running on and still did run on. But because Trudeau was speaking in a more progressive way, more progressive language than he usually, or than the Liberal Party usually did, they ended up with a majority government and the NDP got wiped out. So we have this situation now where we actually have multiple left-wing parties. So the Conservative Party largely has been this party that has consolidated all the conservative votes. And then you have the left-wing votes split among the Liberals, the NDP, and the Greens. And now though, in this year's election, there is now going to be the People's Party of Canada run by Maxime Bernier. So Maxime Bernier was a conservative in the Conservative Party in Canada. He lost the leadership race for the Conservative Party, and then about a year later ended up starting his own party, which is the People's Party of Canada. And his party is a lot more molded in the way of Donald Trump and fear-mongering around immigration and talking about how we need to protect Canadian culture and all this, all this crap. So with the People's Party now in this discussion, there is a potential now for the conservative vote to actually be split among the People's Party of Canada and the Conservative Party, and which could potentially help the left-wing parties. But because the NDP right now isn't as strong as I would hope they are, at least right now in polling, they aren't doing too well. Jagmeet Singh is the leader of the NDP. He's a new leader in the NDP. They have to really be able to step up their game and really present a bold message. So the NDP right now is really lacking a bold message of something, let's say like Bernie Sanders in the US. So if the NDP wants to be able to take hold, they need to be more bold, embrace class conflict, talk about how the wealthiest and corporations are getting away with murder. And we have to be able to really embrace this idea that it's the people against the elites.
So I'm amused by the idea of this Bernier guy, whose sauce is quite weak, by the way, to saying like, "Hey, we got to protect Canada against immigration." Is he suggesting that you guys build a wall on your southern border like Trump is, because you got to keep out the dangerous Americans?
No, but he's worried about things like refugees. So in 2015, 2016, Canada took in a lot of Syrian refugees. And people like Bernier are afraid that refugees, that immigrants are changing the Canadian culture without realizing that Canada is built on diversity. I mean, much like the US, we are countries that are built on immigrants. So the idea that there is a Canadian culture, which really, I mean, there's a running joke that the People's Party really just means the white People's Party, because that's essentially what it is. They are protecting white culture, white identity against immigration, against anybody that looks different. So unfortunately, Donald Trump and his rhetoric has rubbed off on us. And we have people like Maxime Bernier. We also have Doug Ford, who's the premier in Ontario. He has less issues with immigrants and that, but really a far-right politician in terms of economic policy. He canceled the raise in the $15 minimum wage. So we were supposed to get a $15 minimum wage this year that was promised by the former Liberal government in Ontario. He won, he canceled that. He took away 2 paid sick days that we have. So, and he was able to win a majority government on the platform of for the people. So Doug Ford ran on this idea of I'm for the people and formed a majority government based on this bullshit idea that he is for the people and really he is for the corporations. So much like Donald Trump, it's the same thing where you have this figurehead who pretends he is for the people, who again, much like Donald Trump, Doug Ford was born into wealth. He inherited his business. So this is a guy who has a lot of similarities to Donald Trump and was able to run on this idea that he's for the people, when in reality, he is for the wealthy.
Yeah, the idea of Donald Trump rubbing off on anyone sounds pretty disgusting. So I'm sorry that you guys had to go through that. And my sense of who should live in Canada is whoever's willing to bear that cold, they should be welcome.
It was pretty cold last week.
Right. So, all right. Now, look, I want to go back to Trudeau. I'm afraid we're going to run out of time, but we got to talk about the healthcare system in Canada.
Yeah.
So, tell us about how horrible that socialist system is, and how long you guys have to wait, and how people are dying in the streets. Go ahead.
Well, that's one of the greatest things about being a Canadian and talking about American politics, is I can actually communicate to Americans and offer them an outsider perspective and tell them about things like our healthcare system. So our healthcare system, look, there's all this talk about all these long wait times. When I go to the doctor, I make a same-day appointment. Now, that isn't necessarily the same case for everyone in Canada, but it is the case a lot of the time. If you get sick, you can make a same-day appointment and see your doctor. And you go there, you come home, there's no paperwork, there's no insurance company, just nothing. You just go and you leave. And same with surgery. So I had surgery about 8 years ago. There was one sheet of paper, just so you know, they knew what the procedure was. And then I had the surgery. So the surgery was a bit of a wait time. It was about 3 months, but it was a surgery that wasn't, it wasn't imminent. It wasn't life or death. So I was able to wait 3 months, which was fine. Had my surgery, came home, no problems, no extra money, no out-of-pocket expenses. But I do want to say though, Bernie's Medicare for All plan is better than what Canada currently has. So in Canada, we have our family doctors covered, hospital care covered, but we don't have dental care and we don't have pharmacare. So certain provinces do have their own plan, so it varies by province. But for example, in my province, we don't have pharmacare or dental care. And in Bernie's plan, you do have all of that. So if you are able to pass, Medicare for All in the future, you will have a better healthcare system than Canada currently has.
Okay, you blew my mind with same-day appointment. Because here in America, to be fair to our system, I also get same-year appointments with my doctor. So it will oftentimes take a month to get, a lot of times more than a month, to get just an appointment for a checkup or anything along those lines here in America. So like the idea that single payer creates more bureaucracy is just not true. We have massive bureaucracy here. I mean, what you described there sounded like nirvana to an American, so here's our experience. One, you gotta go wait a long time to get an appointment with your doctor. Some, obviously, it varies throughout the country, different areas, et cetera. But certainly we do here in LA. And number two, you go in and you're worried like, okay, I got a copay, I got a deductible. What if something happens? Can I afford it? Maybe I shouldn't go because then I might find out there's something wrong with me and then that's gonna bankrupt me. And then afterwards, you brace for impact. Like you fill out the papers and then what bill are you gonna get back, et cetera.
Yeah.
I mean, that'll create more health problems than just the stress that it creates.
Yeah, on that point, that's one of the hugest, the biggest benefits that people don't often talk about is you have peace of mind. You, like me as a Canadian, it's so funny. So when I began to actually cover politics and get into this whole thing, I had to actually research what our Canadian healthcare system was, how it operated, because I never had to think about it. If I had to go to the doctor, I just went to the doctor. There was no reason for me to really understand how it all operated. So now understanding how this American system works and realizing there's this profit-making middleman, when you take that out, it makes everything easier for everyone. It makes it easier for the doctors, it makes it easier for the patients. The whole system is simplified, and on top of that, you save money and you have peace of mind. So having peace of mind, I mean, is a huge factor, and also the time aspect of it. So there's no time with your insurance company, there's no time on the phone. Like all of that is just gone. And you simply have healthcare as a basic right, and that's how it should be.
But David, tell us about when Canada went bankrupt, because we hear that single payer bankrupts countries.
Yeah, you know what's funny about that? So there was a story recently, I think you guys covered it. Rand Paul came to Canada to get surgery. And the surgery he got here is surgery that is covered for Canadians. So it also goes to the point where, if you take away private healthcare, then there's not gonna be innovation in healthcare. Complete crap. Why did Rand Paul, who once called universal healthcare slavery, why did Rand Paul come to Canada to get surgery that is offered to Canadians as a basic right? So, I mean, it's amazing.
To be fair, probably because of the shared border that Kentucky and Canada have.
Of course.
And by the way, if you don't know, Canada's system costs less than half of what the American system does, and it produces quantifiably better results. And so last question for you, David, on that and overall. If you told the Canadian people, we are going to change the system we have so that now you will have to pay private insurance companies for your health care, and there will be deductibles and co-pays and premiums, et cetera, what do you think the reaction would be?
They would freak out. So to prove that to you, we're gonna have two conservative parties in Canada now. Neither of them are going to run on moving to a private insurance-based healthcare system. If they did, they would lose every seat in Canada. Nobody, conservatives do not want a private-based insurance, private-based healthcare. And we actually have, so Doug Ford, in our premier in Ontario, he is actually slowly trying to privatize aspects of our healthcare. And you should see the comments and the reaction from voters that voted for this Doug Ford government. They are freaking out. So when conservatives in Canada love universal healthcare, that should tell you something, that once you move to it, you do not want to go back.
All right, David Dole, creator and host of The Rational National. Everybody check out youtube.com/The Rational National. There's a wonderful show there. Thank you for joining us, David, appreciate it.
Thanks, Cenk.
All right.